is probably the most jet lag in your life, really. It's far away from everywhere.
Well, it really depends. If you just actually stop along with, hey guys, how are you doing today? Thank you very much for joining us for another one of our live sessions where we attempt to answer every single one of your questions about traveling in New Zealand. And to do so, well, we are joined by Laura, which is joining us every single week, and by me, which is joining you every single week as well. Why are we the one answering questions?
All right, so if you are wondering who the hell we are the team behind backpackerguide.nz, which is a free online website, because all websites are online, and it's full of information about traveling in New Zealand, whether you're looking for information on car rentals, bus transport, whether you're looking for information on activities or even working holiday visas. We provide information on all those things for absolutely free. But if you can't really be bothered reading our website, we do this live Q&A session every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. So you guys can come onto the live chat and ask your personal New Zealand travel questions to us, and we will do our best to answer them for you. So just to give you an overview of what times that is around the world. So like I said, it's 8 a.m. New Zealand time every single Sunday. But if you're in the US, that is on a Saturday at 4 p.m. EST or 12 p.m. PST. If you're in Europe, so UK and France, that's on a Saturday evening, 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And in India, that is bright and early on a Sunday morning at 1:30 a.m. So throughout the week, you guys can ask your questions to us, because we also pool together a lot of questions so we can go through them during this live Q&A session as well. So if you guys do have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments of any of our YouTube videos. You can also send us private messages on Facebook if you search Backpacker Guide NZ. You can also send us a private message on Instagram if you search at backpackerguide.nz, or you can give us a mention on Twitter on at BPK Guide.
I never checked Twitter. I always forget. All right, so let's say hi to the chat quickly. So Leo says, hi, how are you guys doing today? We're doing pretty well. It is very cold this week in New Zealand, so we're doing warm now because we did crank up the heat, but yeah, we're doing well. What about you? And Alomo says, hi. Hello, Alomo, how are you doing? All right, so we are not going to waste any time because you guys this week sent us a lot of questions. So while you guys are getting warmed up in the live chat with all your questions about traveling in New Zealand, all the comments that you may have, we are going to get started with our first question. And do you want to read it?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get started.
All right, so William Prasetio on YouTube asked, which one is cheaper? Use campervan and stay in free campsites, or just rent a standard car and stay in a holiday park?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, so this is, it's a question that we do receive quite a lot. Obviously, you think that traveling in a campervan should be cheaper because it seems like you have your accommodation there altogether. But, you know, when you're in a car and going in campsites, that's a lot of different things to pay for. But Robin's actually done the math for you guys to actually see which one is cheaper and what around the cost would be. Now, there is a number of factors that actually influence the price that you really need to be aware of. First of all, the season is really critical. So in winter, the prices are about half of what the prices would be in summer in terms of rental vehicles. Also, the number of passengers. If you have more passengers, you can obviously split the costs more ways. But yeah, so what we've done with the calculations that Robin's done for you guys, we've done it for two people traveling across both islands across 2 weeks and divided them into the winter prices and the summer prices. So do you want to take it away?
Give me my notes. Yeah, so I've done a lot of math. So as Laura mentioned, I'm going to divide those costs between, I'm going to split them between winter and summer, so you have an idea depending on when you travel. Now, when is winter in New Zealand, Laura?
Winter is between June and August.
And when is summer?
And summer is between
December, January, and February. Here you go. That was a trick question. It wasn't. She's just not awake. All right, cool. So for each of them, the only prices that I have included are the cost of rental. That is the cheapest rental available plus insurance, or it is just the average kind of rental price, and then you're going to have to add the insurance on top of that. Then I included gas, I included the accommodation cost and the ferry cost, because obviously going between both islands, the cost of the ferry is going to be quite substantial. Everything else, from parking to food to activities to any of that, is not included in what I just did right now. But since we're literally just trying to compare different modes of transportations around New Zealand, I thought it was a bit smarter to do it that way. All right, so let's get started with the car plus tent combo. Now, in winter, you will be spending about $630 on rental. That's about $45 per day. $700 on gas. That's about $50 per day. $420 on accommodation. That's about $30 per day, which is $15 per person, which is really cheap for campsites. So I really went for the cheapest available, and about $210 for the ferry. You could go down to around $200 if you book really early, but quite often it may be a bit more. It may be about $250. So that makes a total of using car and tent in winter of 1,960 New Zealand dollars. So that's 1,960 New Zealand dollars. Now, to do exactly the same thing, car and tent, that means driving a car around and pitching your tent in holiday parks, because with the car, you're not going to have a self-contained camper van. You won't really have access to a lot of freedom campsite or free campsites. So we're going to summer now. So in summer, I put around $85 per day for car rental. That's car rental plus insurance, kind of on a really, really cheap way. So that would be $1,190. For gas, I put about $55 per day. We find that gas is always a little bit more expensive in summer, so we put like an extra 10%. So that's $770. For accommodation, I put $25 per person, because some campsite prices increase quite a lot in summer. So that's $700. And then the ferry remains about the same price at $210. So that makes a total of car plus tent combo in summer of $2,870. All right, now let's say you decide to go to travel with the car, but you don't want to pitch a tent every single day, and you want to go in a cabin in the holiday park. You will have to add about $700. So that's an extra $50. That's an extra $25 per person. So $50 per day, $25 per person. So we make the winter total $2,660, and the summer total $3,570. Know that this is the cheapest cabin you can get, and all of that is really at the cheapest I can get for you guys. All right, now let's talk about self-contained camper van. So self-contained camper van will allow you to be able to use freedom campsite in New Zealand, which are campsites which are either very, very, very cheap or totally free, where you can stay there for 1, 2, or 3 nights. Now, when you travel with the self-contained camper van in New Zealand, your accommodation cost is not zero. Some of the campsites are actually going to have a little bit of a fee, and most of the time you will have to actually go to a holiday park about every 3 days to spend the night there, to be able to empty all your grey and black water tank, which is all your toilet and all the stuff from the sink. So you have to do that in actual holiday park. And also you're going to need to plug your camper van in order to recharge all the batteries and make sure that it works. So what I've done for this one is that I have decided to say that about 1 out of 3 days you're going to stay in a holiday park. If you decide to stretch it a little bit longer, well, the extra cost will cover for the few times you're going to stay in a freedom campsite that has a cost. So it kind of balances it out a little bit, but I still kind of kept in mind the fact that 1 out of 3 days you're going to stay in a holiday park in a standard power site. So standard power site is literally a campsite, but just with a power plug. So you'll be able to plug your camper van and recharge everything. And to empty your grey and black water, you'll be able to do that in a holiday park. All right, I know I'm talking a little bit fast right here, but you are able to replay this video as often as you want, and I'm going to try to slow down right here. I just realized I was talking too fast. Okay, so same thing for the self-contained camper van. I have split that between winter and summer. All right, so in winter, you are likely to spend about $140 per day to rent a self-contained RV, a self-contained camper van. That would be a total of $1,960 worth of rental for 14 days. So again, all of that is for 2 weeks, 2 people. And now for gas, you are likely to spend about $68 a day. It is more expensive, about 50% more expensive to run an RV than running a car, but I did increase it just by 35%, just to balance things out. Like maybe you're going to drive less, so I wasn't sure, so I kind of balance this one out a little bit. For accommodation, I decided to give you 5 days in accommodation out of 14. That gives you a nice 1 day out of 3, and I put that at $30 per day in powered site. This is the cheapest you can get in New Zealand. That's $150, and for the ferry, it's going to be about $300. Know that most of the time it might be about $350 with a big RV, but sometimes you can get a really good deal at about like $290, $270 even sometimes. So to balance that out, I put it around $300. So that makes a total of using a self-contained camper van in New Zealand for 14 days for 2 people at $3,355. Now in summer, you're likely to spend about $250 per day to rent a camper van or RV self-contained. So that's $3,500. You are likely to spend about $75 a day on gas, so that's going to be $1,040. You're likely to spend about $250 on accommodation. That's 5 days at $50 per day in a powered site in a holiday park. That's $250, and the ferry about the same price. I put it at $300, but it can be a little bit more. That makes a total of $5,090. So now just to recap, if you compare car plus tent at the cheapest you can get, it's $1,960 in winter, $3,355 in winter for self-contained camper van. So consider those two ones. It's almost 1 to 2 as a ratio. So it's so much cheaper to get yourself a car. In summer, it's about the same thing. It's $2,870 for the car and tent, and $5,090 for the camper van. So if you consider that you are saving almost $2,000 in summer, that is a lot of moolah, my friend. That's a lot of moolah. You can do a lot of activities. You can treat yourself. You can have a lot of really amazing food. And on top of that, you're going to spend much less on gas. So you're going to have a much lower impact on the planet. So usually car plus a holiday park, even car plus motel, car plus hotel. I actually did a quick calculation. Car plus hotel was a little bit cheaper than self-contained camper van again. So you've got to keep that in mind when planning your trip. And all the prices that I gave you right here was for 2 passenger, 2 weeks, and they were all in New Zealand dollars. So that will help you kind of figure this one out. Obviously, a bit of a disclaimer right here. It's the calculation that I did myself. You can always find a little bit cheaper. You can always find much more expensive. There is always kind of a balance right here. But it should give you a general idea of what kind of prices to expect when traveling in New Zealand and when you want to compare car versus camper van for your trip. There you go.
And to help you guys out further, we will put some links to some articles in the description below, sort of outlining the different costs to consider when hiring a camper van or a car. So we'll link up to an article with more information on that in the description below. And we'll link up to a video we did on 20 ways to save money on car rental.
Yeah, why not? Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Do you want to read these comments? The nice person saying something nice.
So Mauro Sousa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably not, says, hi, the information you share is really helpful, easy to understand, and amazing. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
I love your job, and I'm planning a working holiday, and thank you for all the information you provide. Well, you are very welcome, Mauro.
Yeah, thank you for sticking around with us.
Yes.
I know that. I mean, where are you from, Mauro? Tell us where you're from so we know if you're actually up really early or up really late. We don't really know what time it is around the world at the moment.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while you guys are getting started on live chat, if you have any questions, just go ahead. We're here to answer that live. We don't just do those questions, but since you send us quite a lot, let's get started. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, sure. I'm the question reader today.
Yeah, why not?
All right. So Kylie Crossgrave, let me start again. Kylie Crossgrave on YouTube asked, hello, how does the dock campsite pass work? From my research, I understand you pay a pass and can get a discounted camp fees at some dock managed sites. Is this correct? There doesn't seem to be a lot of information available on this. We are hiring a self-contained camper van. Any advice is really greatly appreciated.
Greatly appreciated.
Yes. Okay. So just so you guys know what DOC is, that is the Department of Conservation in New Zealand, and this is like the government organization that actually helps run and maintain some of the campsites and walking trails around New Zealand. So just to make sure you guys know what we're talking about when we say DOC. Do you want to go through what the DOC pass is all about?
All right, so Laura will be able to show it to you in a second, but let's get started about the dog pass. So the dog pass is basically a weekly pass that you can purchase from the car company. No, I did say it perfectly before. I'm just saying.
Sorry.
So you can get that from the the campervan rental company, and you'll be able to purchase it, and you will get basically discounted accommodation in dog or Department of Conservation campsite. Now, there are a lot of confusions about this thing. So first up, let's get started. How do you get one? When you rent your car rental, your camper van, I have to stop saying car. When you rent your camper van, you can actually ask for those from selected companies. There is a bunch of companies that work with the dog to prepare those things. That include Juicy and a few others. For example, Juicy was the first one that came into my mind. Now, at this point, they will give you this little thing right here, which is a sticker, or not really a sticker, it's actually a piece of cardboard. And on there, you're gonna actually add a few information from the start date, the end date, the vehicle registration, the number of passenger inside, both adults and children. Each of those have a specific numbers on them, and that will allow the rangers to see that this camper van basically already has paid for this accommodation for the campsite. Now, the first thing I want to put up is that when it says you can save up to 50% per night and everything, that is not the case. It's a very misleading way to explain how that works. There is no discount or anything like that. When you pay for the pass, this pays for your accommodation. So it's very misleading. So that's why I kind of said, okay, I'm going to do a full video about that, and I'm going to kind of explain how that works. So when you pick up your camper van from, let's say, Juicy, and it's a self-contained camper van, you have the options to get yourself that pass. You can pay, and let me get started. $25 if you are one passenger, $50 if you are two passengers, and $75 if you are a family of one adult and one or two kids. Sorry. Now, once you pay that fee, you have access to a selected amount of dog campsites, and I'll get back to that a little bit later, for free. You paid that fee. This is the cost of what it costs you to stay in those campsites. So you do not have to pay extra after that. Once this paperwork is filled up, there is the start date and all of that, and you have 7 consecutive days, which means 7 days in a row, to use the selected named campsites for 7 days every single night. So you have this little piece of cardboard, you put it on your dashboard facing up so people from the outside of the vehicle can see it, and you drive to your campsite, you stay there, there is no extra paperwork or anything like that to do, you don't have to pay, you don't have to register, nothing, you just park and you are sorted. Now, for the 7 consecutive days, I just want to make that very clear that you cannot just travel 3 days, then stay in a city for about 5 days, and then do an extra 4 days of campsite. It doesn't work that way. Let's say you start on the 1st of the month, it expires on the 7th of the month, and that is it. If you haven't used it 7 times, it's on you. Now, speaking about using it, you are probably not going to use it 7 times, because when you travel with a self-contained camper van, you usually need to recharge all the batteries, you need to empty the gray and the black water tanks, which is basically the waste tanks in your camper van that can't hold it for that long. So usually when you buy a 7-day pass, you probably will be using only for 5 to 6 nights at the most. Now, it still is a bargain. I mean, if you think about it, $50 for 2 people for 6 nights in the campsite is still cheap, as they say here. So it's still really, really cheap, but I just want you to get a little bit more information about that. Now, about the campsites that you're going to be able to access. Now, on the Department of Conservation, there is a list of it. I already opened the tab for you, so I think you'll be able to show that. So there is a list. It's a really nice little map of New Zealand, and flip it around and show it. Yep, perfect. So there is a map of New Zealand right here where you can click and you have all the campsites that you have access to. So now you have to know that those campsites are the most basic campsites that the dog has to offer. So it's literally just a patch of grass. It's the non-service, non-powered campsite. It's literally just a bare bones basic. So for this reason, that's why I say that you're probably not going to be using it that much because, well, you're going to need to refill the water in your, in your shower or in your tap. You're going to need to empty the tanks of gray and black water. You're going to need to plug the camper van to recharge all the batteries, and you can't do that in the campsite that you have access to. So that's why I was saying, like, maybe you need to do like 3 days, and then you need to recharge all the batteries and everything, and do another 3 days. And that's why this pass, when they say it's valid for 7 consecutive days, I personally think that it's valid most. You probably use it for 6 days at the most, and that's basically it. Now, there is quite a few campsites that you have access to with this one, but it's not all of them. So make sure that you do check that, because you will get a fine if you do not pay to use a campsite that you haven't you haven't paid for. So even if you have that pass, but the campsite that you're staying at is not on the list, well, it still means that you haven't paid for your campsite. And the last question that we quite often get is that if you do get that discount weekly pass and everything, and you want to go to one of the campsites from the Department of Conservation, which is not on the list, do you get a discount? And the simple answer is no. You get no discount. You get basically a bundle of nights for a selected amount of campsite, and that is it. It doesn't allow you to anything else.
Yeah. So I think I just want to
for sure
say something.
I just wanted all the information there, and here you go.
So I think the best thing to do if you are considering, because like Robin said, it is quite a good deal, this pass. But I think if you are more of a planner, if you want to plan the exact campsites you're going to stay in, and bearing in mind that the most expensive campsites that you could be staying in are about $15 per person per night, which that does add up, definitely more than $50 if that's 2 people and you're staying there if you're staying in multiple campsites on your trip. I think it's definitely best, like if you're a planner, make sure you plan which campsites you're going to, and that way you will be making a good saving. But if you are more of a sort of spontaneous type of traveler, then you might find yourself regretting getting that pass, because you might just find a different campsite that's just more convenient at the time, or you're drawn to somewhere else that's the pass won't work at. So I think it really depends on what type of traveler you are. And that's
All right, cool. Well, I hope that you find this video super useful. We do have some articles about all those subjects on backpackerguide.nz, so make sure to check the link in the description below, which are pointing you out in the right direction, so you get even more information than what we just gave you. And obviously, if you find this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe, because it does help us a lot, and we do those videos every single week. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Moro is asking, I would like to ask, what is the method of transportation you recommend to explore New Zealand on the first weeks of a working holiday? By the way, Moro is from Portugal.
Yeah.
We were asking. All right, so if you are planning on buying a car in New Zealand, maybe you just don't need transportation, and you can just get settled for your first week, do all the bank account and all those kind of things. So you can do all that in Auckland. You don't need transportation. Just use the public transport like the bus. And once you get your car, well, then use your car. If you're not planning on using a car, you can definitely go for a bus tour. There is quite a lot of people which are actually going on the bus tour. As soon as they arrive in New Zealand, they do like a 21 days bus tour all around New Zealand and finish back in Auckland. And then when they know which places they really like, they go there and they start working and do those kind of things. So that kind of works. Like Haka tours, there's some really awesome tours like that. And you can also use InterCity, which is quite cool. You can get yourself a bus pass, which allows you like a certain amount of hours. And we're actually going to be talking about quite soon. But what else would you recommend?
Yeah, I think it also depends on your budget as well. Obviously, buying a car right out the gate is more if you actually have the budget for it. But if you do want to do a bit of cheap travel, then the InterCity buses are usually a good way to go. But yeah, like Robin said, the tours are a good option as well. And yeah, it really depends on your sort of style. If you want to see a lot of the country like really quickly, the bus tours are really good. But if you want to take things slowly, then maybe get yourself a cheap bus ticket with InterCity between Auckland and say the Coromandel, and go stay in a hostel in the Coromandel, see what it's like. Then just sort of just sort of work your trip like on the fly, a bit more spontaneously, and then see from the Coromandel, well, I'll take a bus.
That's what gap year is all about anyway. I mean, you want some freedom, and that's what gap year is.
Yeah.
But yeah, InterCity is actually a really good option. It's basically a bus, just a nationwide bus network. And actually, we do have a question right here that explains the kind of passes that you can get with InterCity. So that may be really helpful to you, Moro, because you'll be able to save quite a lot of money. So I'm kind of going to read that question, and then I'm going to make Laura answer it, because I did answer just 2 questions.
That's very true. You've done a lot of talking.
Yeah. What about I read that, and then and there is a tab open for you as well here. Here you go. No, I'll find it for you later.
Okay.
All right, cool. So I just realized it's not open. Cool. So Annelise on Facebook says, "Hi Rob." This one's for me.
Just for you.
I just saw your videos about the Hop on Hop Off buses. Thanks for the great help. Your website is awesome and helpful. I have a small question. I read that the InterCity coaches are for the travelers who have more time, especially the flexi passes. Do these buses drive slower or make more stops? Do the InterCity buses take longer from A to B compared to Hop on Hop Off? I have 4 weeks for the whole of New Zealand. Do you recommend a flexi pass or a travel pass? All right, so the flexi pass and the travel pass are 2 really good options if you have a month in New Zealand. But first up, I want to address the first part of your questions. No, the buses which are from InterCity do not drive slower than, let's say, a bus from Q Express or from Stray. They all drive at the same speed. New Zealand has set rules for speed when driving. They don't necessarily take more time from A to B. They do have a few stops here and there, but because Hop on Hop Off buses make like kind of a guided tour out of every single day, usually from going from A to B, it's actually going to be faster to use a bus like InterCity than a Hop on Hop Off bus if you are looking at just the raw time. For example, if you were to drive from Auckland to the Coromandel Peninsula, it will take you a whole day, let's say starting at 9 and arriving at like, let's say about 4 at your destination with a Hop on Hop Off bus, but it will only take you about 3.5 hours when you are taking an InterCity bus. So it actually is faster to use InterCity bus. They're also a little bit cheaper. So that's kind of one of the main questions. Now for 4 weeks, Laura, would you recommend using an InterCity bus pass, or would you recommend using a Hop on Hop Off bus pass?
I think for 4 weeks, Hop on Hop Off bus would be, I think that would allow you to stretch out that travel a lot longer. Like Robin says, the actual each.
You said Hop on Hop Off?
Yeah, for longer.
Okay.
Oh,
you meant
I meant InterCity.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just start because I don't think that's what you meant. Okay. So for 4 weeks, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So for 4 weeks, sorry. I would definitely recommend taking one of the InterCity bus passes, such as the Flexi Pass. But we will go through what the difference is between their Flexi Pass and their Travel Pass. So the Flexi Pass works in basically you decide on your itinerary. The Flexi Pass gives you a set amount of hours that you travel on the bus. This could be up to 30 hours, 60 hours. This is basically, it's sort of like your credit for InterCity, and you basically get to choose which journeys you're taking. So you get to book your journey from A to B everywhere around New Zealand, and that's really the good option for someone that wants to travel on a budget but also decide on their own itinerary. And how that's different to the travel pass is that the travel pass with InterCity actually takes you on a set route around the country. So it kind of works in a similar way to the Hop on Hop Off buses, where they have a set route around New Zealand and they only follow that route. Well, the travel pass actually also just takes you around a set route around New Zealand. And with the travel pass, you do have multiple options. There's usually sort of 5 days in the North Island or 10 days in the South Island, or they'll do up to about 20 to 30 days going around the whole of New Zealand. So that's good if you are a little bit unsure of where to go, if you don't really want to plan your own itinerary. The travel pass is a really good option as well. But for 4 weeks, there's probably not a travel pass that's going to last that long. And also, it doesn't work quite the same as the Hop on Hop Off because you can't get off in the middle of a route. You basically have to go from A to B on that journey with InterCity, and basically your end destination is where you get off the bus. Another cool thing though about the travel pass is that there's usually a couple of extra activities included. For instance, a cruise in Milford Sound, or maybe a bus trip to Cape Reinga in the very north of New Zealand, where you can see 90 Mile Beach and you can see the Cape Reinga Lighthouse, for instance. So there's a few little activity inclusions in there as well, which also might make it worth it. But definitely for 4 weeks, you do have a lot of time to sort of plan your own itinerary. So the Flexi Pass is definitely a good option if you are traveling on a budget. And we do have all this information of actually comparing both travel passes on backpackerguide.nz, which we'll make sure to link up to that article in the description below.
All right, so just to recap, because it gets pretty confusing. I mean, Laura just got herself confused at some point. So Hop on Hop Off buses have one route, and then when you buy a different pass, you get an access to certain part of that route, and that is it, all around the country, and that is basically it. This is why we don't necessarily recommend it to you for 4 weeks. Now, the InterCity has a nationwide network. They connect almost every cities around New Zealand, so it's a really big grid of buses. If you buy a Flexi Pass, you basically buy a certain amount of credit to use on this entire grid, and you are in charge of how you want to spend them, which gives you plenty of flexibility, hence the name Flexi Pass. If you are using the InterCity Travel Pass, it's basically set routes within the entire network that will allow you to travel around. The InterCity network also does include on any of their passes, they include the ferry crossing as well. It's either part of the credit that you're spending or it's already included in the travel pass itself. So that's basically how to compare them. And that's why our recommendation for you for 4 weeks, and it looks like you want some flexibility, is to go for the Flexi Pass. So you just buy, let's say your 150 hours, and then you spend them. And as you go through the site, it will tell you how many hours this is, that is this and that. And this is how you're going to get the best value for money when traveling around New Zealand for 4 weeks and backpacking, in our opinion, obviously.
Yeah, and one more thing to add, actually, if you do end up buying too many hours, because obviously you want to buy as many, you probably want to buy a bit too many hours in case that you obviously want to travel a lot around New Zealand. But if you end up not actually using all your hours, you can actually give those InterCity hours on your Flexi Pass to someone else. So what a lot of people do when they come to New Zealand at the end of their trip, if they do have some hours left, they go onto the backpacking Facebook groups, which we actually have quite a couple ourselves, and we'll make sure to link to those in the description below. But you can actually post on those backpacking Facebook groups and see if anybody wants to buy the hours from you. Obviously, you're not going to get a huge amount of money from it, but it's basically a way to
20 bucks.
Exactly. You're not going to completely waste those hours, and it isn't money just going down the drain.
Yeah, and if you travel with the travel pass or with the Hop on Hop Off bus, there is no way to resell those if you don't use any portions of the tour. All right, so plenty of links for you in the description below. So make sure to scroll down a little bit, open the description, and see everything that we compiled for you. And obviously, if you do find this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us support, everything we're doing. It's pretty awesome. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Good morning, Carla Moon. How are you doing? I hope that you're having a blast. Where are you from, Carla? Tell us. Is it morning for you? Is it morning? Should we go for another question? It looks like you guys don't have that many questions, so we keep going with all the stuff we received this week. And do you read it? You are on the road for reading stuff. Yeah.
All right. So Alex on Facebook asked, "Hey guys, I know there are no poisonous spiders in New Zealand, but what is the most dangerous animal in New Zealand? Greetings, Alex."
Wait. There are dangerous spiders in New Zealand. All right. So let's get started. Alex. Oh, Alex is here.
All right.
Oh, here you go.
Alomo.
So, Alex, there are some poisonous spiders in New Zealand. There is just no snake or no poisonous snakes in the country, but there are dangerous spiders in New Zealand. But there is still a very interesting questions about what are the dangerous animals in the country. So, we compiled a little bit of a list for you just so you know what to expect when traveling around. But I just want to mention, before I even get started, that New Zealand is one of the safest countries in the world, and that even the animals I'm going to be talking about, well, none of them is actually lethal, and you'll be totally fine. So just, if there's a worry for you on traveling in New Zealand, you are just rest assured. It's not happening. All right, so let's get started with in the water. Now, the first thing that people will think of when hearing that New Zealand is an island, or looking at the map and see that New Zealand is an island, they're all going to think that it's surrounded by sharks. So sharks are actually peaceful animals. I've swum with shark and without a cage. Laura has swum with shark without a cage, and we didn't get eaten. Sharks attack are almost never happening. They are one in a billion. So don't be worried about sharks. You are not going to be eaten alive by sharks in New Zealand. I just want to get started with that. Now, if you're in the water, one thing that may happen is that you may encounter a man of war. So a man of war is kind of massive jellyfish which is sticking out of the water and has huge tentacles at the bottom. If you want to know more about the man of war, you can watch Blue Planet 2. They have an episode actually that features a little bit of a segment about it. But it's a pretty awesome animal. Now, if you do see this animal, well, don't go close to it. If you see something jelly in the water, don't go touch it. It probably stings. They sometimes wash on the beach as well, so don't go poke it with your fingers if you see it, so you don't get stinged. But that's pretty much it. If you get stung by a man of war, some people say you need to urinate on it to soothe the pain, but I think it's a bit of bollocks. You may just want to go see a doctor and just get that sorted. Now, that's basically it for the water. There is not much else which is actually dangerous in the water. So let's move on to the land. And now it's quite funny that you say there is no poisonous spiders in New Zealand, because literally the next 3 animals I have for you are spiders. So let's get started with the redback spider. So the redback spider is probably the most common dangerous animal you will find in New Zealand, and you won't find it. Like, it's highly unlikely that you will find it. Now, it's a very small black spider with a white dot or white kind of stripe on the back.
I think it's a red stripe, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, a red stripe. My apologies. So it's a black spider with a red stripe on the back. Thank you for keeping me in check right here. I like it. So now this spider comes to us from Australia. And if you are bitten by it, you will need anti-venom. It is not lethal, but it could have some pretty bad health consequences. So if you are bitten by a spider which is black with a red stripe or red dot on the back, make sure that you head toward a pharmacy, a hospital, a clinic, a doctor, anything you can relatively quickly. Now, this brings me to a tip that I want to give to anyone traveling anywhere in the world, in fact. If you are bitten by something and you can feel the sting straight away, look for that animal and catch it. It is so much easier for any health professional to give you the right medication if they can see that animal and they can identify straight away what you have been bitten by, rather than playing the guessing game and saying, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a spider. I'm not sure. Maybe it was a mosquito. I don't know if it was white or black or what it looked like. You know, to find the anti-venom, you have the spider right here. Like, boom, okay, I'm sorted. I know which one it is. You get what you need. You get the medication you need instantly. So I'm not saying to spend 6 hours trying to catch the animal. You need to get to the hospital at some point. But if you have the opportunity to catch that animal and be able to bring it to the hospital with you, that would be so helpful for anyone which is helping you.
Do you have any tips for catching spiders?
Use a glass and
a piece of paper.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, Jared, glass, piece of paper.
Good job, I was traveling with this glass.
No, but even if it's dead, actually, it's still quite easy to identify.
Squash it, get a tissue.
Exactly. No, but I mean, it is quite important to be able to catch it. But I'm not a spider hunter, so I don't have that many. Maybe there's like on Amazon, they may have like a spider net or something.
Do you think maybe we need to do an article on 5 ways to catch a spider?
That'd be cool. All right, so moving on to the next dangerous animal on the land in New Zealand is the katipo spider. So it's a little bit more venomous than the redback spider, but it is so rare in New Zealand. I mean, sighting of it, even by scientists, even scientists have a hard time finding it. So you won't find it, but it looks very similar to the redback spider, which is quite handy. So it's black with a red stripe on it. So easy as. Now, the reason why I keep on saying white is just because probably the most common venomous animal in New Zealand would be the white-tailed spider. And that's why it just always comes to my mind, because I wanted to have that number 1 on the list, but it's not as venomous. So now, the white-tailed spider is from Australia again. There you go. And it's usually found in like old wood and even in like holes between rocks and everything. So it's a spider which is mostly white with a few black dots on it. And if it does bite you, it does hurt quite a lot. And you better off going to see a doctor, but you won't be dying. You won't be dying. Don't worry about it. Now, next on our list for the most dangerous animals in New Zealand are mosquitoes and sandflies. They're pretty annoying and they can be found in many places around the country, but luckily there is no mosquito-borne illnesses in New Zealand, so you won't be getting dengue or Zika or anything like that, or at least not as we know of just yet. But there is quite a lot of mosquitoes and sandflies.
There is, yeah. So we actually do have an article on backpackerguide.nz about how to help reduce sandfly bites. So sandflies are mainly found near rivers or near beaches, basically more where there's stagnant water. And that's really the same for mosquitoes as well. But yeah, particularly near rivers and especially on the South Island, there are some places, especially along the West Coast, where it's known to be pretty bad for sandflies. But when they do bite, it just leaves a very annoying itch. So there are different like creams you can get, antihistamine and stuff like that, so you can like reduce the itch and stop the swelling so much. And we do have information on backpackerguide.nz with recommendations of what to get to help reduce the amount of sandfly bites you're getting. But one of the tips that we have been given is that if you eat Marmite...
No, don't do that.
But if you're into Marmite, then that's probably a good idea. But for anyone who doesn't like Marmite, which is us, we wouldn't recommend. I think I'd rather get stung by sandflies.
Me too. I would literally lie on the beach being eaten by sandfly rather than having to eat a pot of Marmite. I'm telling you that right now. All right, cool. And before we finish, I just thought it would be quite fun to give you actually what is the most lethal thing in New Zealand, aside from road rage and unhealthy eating. One of the most lethal things you can find in the country is actually a plant. It's called the black nightshade, and it basically kind of looks like grape. It's a plant with like fruit which are green when they're not mature, and they become black when they are. And they can be found in the New Zealand forest. And if you eat the non-mature one, you can die. So don't. If you walk through the forest of New Zealand, don't go around eating everything. Don't eat random berries. And if you think grapes is growing in the middle of the New Zealand native bush, think again. It doesn't. So don't eat the black nightshade, or that'd be pretty bad. But yeah, that's a pretty common thing. Don't walk around and eat random berries. But
if you don't know what something is, don't eat it.
Listen, hey, you know what? Life tip.
Yeah.
Right here. Life hack number 200 by Laura right here.
All right,
cool. So we hope that this answer and this video was very useful to you guys. If you did find it useful, click like and subscribe. And obviously, we always love to give you a lot of information in writing form, so you can actually dive much more in depth into this subject. And we have plenty of links for you guys in the description below. All right, let's go back to the live chat right now. All right, so Alomo says that he guessed he was wrong. Yeah, well, that's okay. We're here to help, and now there is no bad questions anyway. So Banu Harut says, what is the average paycheck in Auckland? Look, Google average paycheck in Auckland, and there's a big number right here. So here you go. It really depends on your industry, what you're doing, how much you're working, and all those kind of things. So, but I'll answer to your questions right here. Here's the number.
What is it?
76,338.
Okay.
Some people earn much less, some people earn much more, and that's an average. Can I live with my family, kids in Invercargill, says Mohammed. Yes, you can. Invercargill is a great city. There is plenty of things to do with kids. We did have a blast in Invercargill. We actually have plenty of videos about what to do in Invercargill, so check those one out as well. What are you going to be doing in Invercargill? Do you want to go travel over there, or is it just relocation? It really depends. But can you? Yes, you can. I mean, sometimes there are some questions which are easy to do. I like it. Speaking of easy as questions, we actually got a pretty short one, which I do like. So we're going to go with that one. And it's from Instadrian on Instagram. All right, I'm going to read it, and Laura's going to answer it.
Okay.
Instadrian on Instagram says, hi. I don't know if you will see this message, but I would like to know if tattoos are an obstacle to finding a job in New Zealand. Thank you. We have seen this message, and we have an answer for you.
All right. So, as you might know, or maybe you don't know, in New Zealand, the Maori culture has a big significance on tattoos, or moko, as they call it when it's tattooed on themselves. So, yeah, a lot of a big part of the Maori culture are tattoos sort of saying their ancestry, and this is usually maybe on their arms, or even some people get it on their face as well. So
there's actually quite a lot of face tattoo in New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly. So because it is such a big part of the culture in New Zealand, then obviously it would be a little bit inappropriate for not being able to find a job with a tattoo, since so many people do have tattoos.
So to be very clear, New Zealand has such a massive tattoo culture. There is even a festival of tattoo in the country, which is quite crazy. So no, the short answer is like no, it is not an obstacle at getting a job. You can definitely get almost every single kind of jobs with tattoos. Aside obviously if your tattoo are like gang related or very graphic or anything like that, you may be asked to cover them up. But aside from that, it's definitely not anything which is to look at. Actually, a lot of the people that I know actually have tattoos. Almost everybody we know actually have a tattoo in New Zealand. It's quite big. Now, depending on certain kind of jobs that you may be doing, you may be asked to cover the tattoo, which makes sense. If you work in a high-end hotel, if you work in a high-end restaurant, just those kind of things, they may just want to have a very polished look for everybody, and for that reason, you may be asked to cover it. Meaning, like, well, they're going to ask you to wear a long sleeve shirt, and that's pretty much it. But I don't think it's a big, it's a massive issue for that per se. But so depending on the industry, you may have to cover it. But in the meantime, tattoos are kind of a cool asset in New Zealand because so many people have a tattoo. It can be quite a good talking piece as well. Like, when you meet new people, you ask them about their tattoo, they ask you about yours. It's kind of like, it's a great icebreaker there. And so New Zealand kind of lives on tattoo. The Maori cultures, they did. I mean, back when the Maoris are still doing, some of them are still doing traditional tattoo. It damn hurts. They use like specific kind of pieces of wood,
like a chisel.
A chisel in the skin. Obviously, like the tattoo that we got, and we actually have an article about a video about us getting a tattoo. Literally, the last thing that we've done on New Zealand's biggest gap year was to get a tattoo. So check this video. We're gonna put a link down there. But so those was using like the normal tattoo gun, so it didn't hurt as much. But they actually go through great length and great pain to get those tattoos. So it would be absolutely not okay to discriminate based on that. I mean, just thinking like having your face chiseled to get those beautiful pieces of art. Yeah. Because that's also one of the things. Most of the Maori tattoos actually are absolutely stunning pieces of art. So they usually enhance kind of the look of a person rather than kind of, like trash it with the tramp stamp, for example.
There's not many tramps.
I hope Injury and whatever does not have a tramp stamp. I really hope that. Yeah. Anyway, but we thought it would be a good opportunity for us to bring up what would be an obstacle to getting a job. What can stop you for getting a job in New Zealand? So we actually have a little bit of a list. Yeah. So first on our list is a bad CV. A bad CV could be interpreted as maybe a CV that you would use at home, but it's not particularly going to work in New Zealand. Don't just translate your French or German CV and hope that it's going to be working. It's not the case. You need to start from scratch. Yeah, exactly. So the best thing you can do is actually, we do have an article on backpackerguide.nz, which is how to make a New Zealand CV. Follow the tips on there and actually cater your CV to New Zealand employers. That's the first thing that you can do to basically overcome that obstacle. Another thing that could be an obstacle is not practicing your English enough. Like we actually discussed in our video last week, that having not absolutely fluent, perfect English isn't really a major negative thing in New Zealand, but you do need to practice English a lot. Obviously, if you're spending most of your time, if you're French, say, and you spend all your time with French people and you only ever speak French, then when it actually comes to communicating in the workplace, it's going to be a little bit difficult. And even in your interview, maybe... Well, what are you saying about my French accent right here? Why are you looking at me that much? If you talk like Robin. If you talk like Robin. My French accent is actually terrible. You do need to practice your English, obviously. There's only certain types of jobs where you do need to have good, like, fluent English, obviously if it's a lot of communication with customers, but there are a lot of jobs where your English doesn't really need to be perfect. And to be honest,
most English people don't speak that perfect English either.
Yeah, that's true.
So do you want to go through some other ones?
So the other kind of thing that you can do badly and will be a major obstacle at you getting a job in New Zealand would be not to personalize your job application. It is so crazy how some people actually just copy and paste the same CV, the same letter, the same message on the email, and just hope that they send that 100 times they're going to get an answer. It does not work. Spamming employers just doesn't work. If you really want a job, or if you really want to work for that specific company, you are capable of writing an extra 2 or 3 sentences. I'm not saying do everything from scratch, but add an extra 2 or 3 sentences about this specific company, making them feel that they have your full attention and that you really wrote this especially just for them. So it's quite important to do that. And so this will be an obstacle at not getting a job.
Yeah, I think that's the end.
All right, cool. So that is basically all our tips about, kind of what are the obstacles about, for getting a job in New Zealand. But again, having a tattoo, it's totally fine. We both have one, and check out the video of us getting it. You're going to see us kind of cringe and be like, it hurts. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you very much for this question, Adrienne. If you did like it, like and subscribe. We are here to help. And if you do have any questions for us, make sure to put them in the comments below because, well, we're here to answer all your questions every single week on the live video. All right, let's go back to live chat. Adrienne was here. He saw our video in French and he says, my French is good. Well, merci beaucoup. I just don't practice my French at all at the moment. So it's kind of, it was kind of weird. It took a few takes to do this one, but I thought it was kind of fun one to do. But it's a good thing that you're watching our videos in English, Adrienne, because it helps you practice your English. And it's important to get the flow going right here. And Randy says, you guys are amazing. Randy, I saw you commenting a lot on our video this morning. So, I mean, this morning for us, New Zealand time. So in the last couple of hours, Randy must have been watching like tens of our videos. Yeah, he's been commenting a lot. So cool. Thank you very much for watching, Randy. That really means a lot. And also taking the time to say that you kind of like our videos. It's kind of really cool. So if you guys do have some questions right now in the live chat, make sure to put them in because we are only here for the next 10 minutes. Actually, 9 minutes now. So make sure that, I'm just counting everything.
The clock is ticking.
Tick-tock. So if you do have the questions of your own, make sure to put them on right now so we can answer them. Otherwise, well, as we mentioned, you have the possibility to comment in any of our videos, like anything that you watch from backpackerguide.nz. You put your questions in the comments, and I pull those every single week. I make us a really long list, and so then we kind of prepare them. We have our lists for those live chat videos. Then Laura discussed them a little bit, like we've done for like the comparison for all the different type of traveling in New Zealand. We do all the little budget, we prepare everything for you, and then we get to answer your questions, which is quite cool. It just makes us also rethink and know what is missing on the guide as well. There's so many articles on backpackerguide.nz. I mean, I think we are close to 2,000 articles right now.
Something like that, yeah.
So with 2,000 articles to help you plan your trip in New Zealand, sometimes we think, what is missing? And what are the information that we don't have for you? So the fact that you guys are constantly asking us questions really help us kind of know that and help us kind of come up with new ways to help you plan your trip. So technically, our website is as good as it is because of you guys. So, we can't really thank you guys enough for keeping us on our toes, basically. Yeah. Those videos are helping us stay on our toes and making sure that we're good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of information from those, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just even a couple of questions that we've gone through today, some of them have been like, that would be better to actually make into a whole guide for you guys. So we can answer your question even more thoroughly than what we can do in these videos. And that's why throughout all our videos that we do, when we answer the questions for you guys, we always say that we link up to articles in the description below, because if there's anything that we've missed, sometimes we might forget to mention a few things. We'll definitely have mentioned them in our articles on backpackerguide.nz. So make sure you do check out some of those links in the description below because they will be helpful.
Yeah, Laura puts a lot of work into filling up all those links for you guys. So, and also another thing which is really cool with doing our videos is that we basically get to do a big balance of the videos. We have about I think it's 370 or 375 videos of us traveling around the countries. So you can see us kind of showing you all the spots that we like and telling you what exactly are all the activities, because that was basically the kind of train of thought behind doing New Zealand's biggest gap year, which is how we started this YouTube channel. Was like what it is really like to do that jet boat in Queenstown or that bungee. Watch that bungee videos. It's you type bungee on the search bar on top of our channel, and there. So what is it really like to do that? So each of our videos are way too long. Let's be honest, they're way too long, but they really tell you what it is really like to do this. And then also we get to sit down and answer all your questions to help you plan a trip. So basically we kind of have a 360 degrees of your trip in New Zealand, which is quite cool. And that brings me to a tip that a lot of people kind of don't have, is that a lot of people forget to use the search bar on the channel. So everybody use the search bar on the top, which search all of YouTube. But if you want to find a video of, from us that we know what to do, type your search on the search bar of our channel, and then it only creates our own videos. It's really helpful. What is Mohammed saying? Mohammed was saying that he will be a doctor, which is quite cool. He's going to work as a doctor in Invercargill. It sounds very cool. Concerned about my kids. Thank you. Invercargill is one of the coldest places in New Zealand, that's for sure. But it's nothing. People are living over there, going there all the time, and it's not that cold. You survive. Just buy a jacket and you'll be okay. You don't have to be fearing for the cold of your kids. Not Antarctica.
Yeah. So obviously it might be different to. It might be obviously colder than from maybe where you're from, but as long as
where are you from, by the way?
Yeah, let's know where you're from. I'm guessing I'm guessing usually people that come from hot countries, they're the most concerned about coming to a slightly colder.
Usually Indians are very concerned because. So I'm guessing, Mohammed, you are Indian, but I may be wrong.
Yeah.
Tell us where you're from.
So best thing to do is just be prepared for it. Make sure that you do get appropriate clothing for it. Make sure that you have like some good underlayers for your kids to wear some. There's a big thing in New Zealand, which is merino wool layers. And usually this is the thing that everybody is wearing in New Zealand to take the edge off the cold. And make sure that they have good jackets. Make sure that obviously where you're living, you have the heating on and things like that. So you can't just live without the heating on in the middle of the winter. You will need to either light the fire or put a heat pump on, that sort of thing. So just be aware that there's going to be those extra things that you're going to need to do to take the edge off the cold, but you
won't be able to walk around in a t-shirt. That's for sure.
You won't be able to go swimming in the lake.
Mohammed is from Namibia, which is very hot.
Yes.
Well, definitely it will be much colder than Namibia. I don't think it's not going to be a danger to your kids. Again, like even no matter where you're from, even if you're from the middle of the Sahara Desert, you are going to be okay going to Invercargill. You're just going to have layers. So if you can find back home in Namibia some real warm clothing, maybe it'd be worth getting them from there, because that will probably be much cheaper than in Invercargill. But obviously, being from Namibia, you probably don't have wool clothing and duck down jackets and all those kind of things. So you may want to set aside a budget to be able to buy those things here in New Zealand. You can find them in rather cheap price, but they won't really be really good quality. So you can find them in stores like the Warehouse, where you'll be able to spend about let's say $500 and get jackets and socks and stuff like that for the whole family. But if you do want something a little bit more of a better quality, you can go to places like Kathmandu, Macpac, or Torpedo 7, and then that may cost you a little bit more. We're talking about 3 times that price, because to be fair, they are 3 times better. Like in this kind of thing, it is better to spend good money on those.
Yeah.
So maybe about $1,500, something like that, will get you jackets and socks and those kind of things for the whole family. So don't panic. It will be cold. It will be raining. It is normal. It's New Zealand, but that is what makes New Zealand so beautiful as well. That's the weather that brings all this greenery and this awesome New Zealand. So there's no need to kind of be terrified about those things. But it is. Invercargill is much colder than Africa. No question about that. Yeah, that's for sure. But to be fair, the weather changes. Then it depends also on what time of the year you're coming. It will be cold all year round compared to Africa, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But in summer, it's going to be quite nice, and yeah, you're going to enjoy yourself. Like Southland is really awesome region of New Zealand.
Yeah.
There's so much to do there.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think in the first, obviously, when you first come to New Zealand and Invercargill, you will definitely feel the difference, as you do when you travel anywhere. When you travel to a different climate, first time you step off the plane, you're like, whoa. But
even when you arrive, like let's say, like when we go to some of the South Pacific islands, we go to Fiji, for example, we walk out of the plane like, man, it's so hot. Oh my gosh, I can't handle it. But then it takes you an hour, and then you
exactly. You do get used to it very quickly. But yeah, like Robin was saying, that there is so much to do around Invercargill anyway that you won't even be thinking about the weather. It's close to one of what I personally think is one of the best national parks in New Zealand, which is the Fiordland National Park, and that's the place where Milford Sound is. If you've heard of that, it's probably one of the biggest attractions in New Zealand. Absolutely beautiful scenery. There's a forest that looks like it's from Jurassic Park. There's amazing mountains to see. And also you can, from Invercargill, it's just a short trip to Stewart Island, which is an island just off the bottom of the South Island. And there's amazing wildlife to see. And you can also take your kids there to go see kiwi birds in the wild, which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, getting to see the wildlife so up close in New Zealand is just absolutely amazing. And the wildlife is going to be very different than what you experienced back in Africa. So you're going to be able to see so many different things here. It's quite amazing. But again, maybe one of the smart way to do for you, Mohammed, would be to try to arrive in the New Zealand summer, which runs from, let's see if she remembers it.
It's from December to February.
There you go. So if you can arrive between December and February, you're going to arrive in the best weather that New Zealand has to offer. So that may help you ease in a little bit better rather than arriving in mid-August. That's going to be the worst. I mean, the coldest. Not the worst, because we enjoy the cold, because that brings you skiing and snowboarding, which is pretty awesome. So so maybe that could be a good thing for you to kind of ease into it.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings our video to an end for this week. Thank you very much for everybody that joined us this week. It was awesome to have you in. It was awesome to hang out with you guys. If you are watching a rerun on this video, make sure to put your questions in the comments so we can get to them next week. We still do have quite a lot of questions that we didn't go through this week, so we'll get to them next time. Yeah. And again, we are going to be back here next week on Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time, which is one of those times somewhere in the world. If you're in USA, 4 p.m. EST. If you're in the USA, 12 p.m. PST. If you're in the UK, it's 9 p.m. If, like Adrien right here, you are in France, it's 22h, 10h du soir. And if you are in India, it is 1:30 a.m. on Sunday. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. It means a lot to have you every single week. As we mentioned in this video, it helps us better everything that we do, from our guide to our videos. So thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Ooh, my hat.